What's up everyone, welcome back to ARTV. My name is John and it's time for a 3-in-1 album review. Something that I haven't done in quite some time, but I thought about it and I'm like, all of these bands are on Hopeless Records, so why not make it a Hopeless Records roundup? Shout out to the camps at Team Rome and also Tiny Moving Parts for getting me the albums early, and I'm also rolling this into one in the hopes that more people will check out this video. Up for a review today, I've got the new album Smile Wide by the UK-based pop-punk band Rome, although this time they're adapting more of a grungy 90s aesthetic. Also, I had a Patreon request for the album that released earlier this year, their first for Hopeless Records. It's the punk-influenced band Dollskin and their album Love Is Dead and We Killed Her, and also the former math rock, still somewhat math rock, also emo revival band Tiny Moving Parts and their new album Breathe. I'm excited to talk to you about these releases. I'll go through quickly and break down my thoughts on all of these records. There's going to be a snippet played in between each one so you get a taste for the record. Go check them out. There's links in the description down below to either stream the records or else order them, and also least favorites, favorites, all that good stuff as always. Don't forget to drop a like on this video if you like it when I review smaller artists and bands like this, and let's get started.
I'm a hand grenade. You pull the pin and run away. Well, I've been making lemonade.
So the British pop-punk band Rome, that had previously never really caught my attention in a very positive way, have stepped things up for album number 3, and kudos to them for doing so. They're taking on more of a 90s sound on this one, a little bit of grunge perhaps, but also just a very nostalgic feeling is evoked, and that's definitely a positive thing that works in this album's favor the majority of the time. I heard the lead single, I Don't Think I Live There Anymore, and I was surprisingly taken back with it. I really love that song. It trades off vocals between their lead vocalist but also their guitarist that provides some backing vocals and additional leads, and I think based on what I've heard in the past and what I remember, he's taking a little bit more of the spotlight, and I'm more than okay with that because the way their voices kind of intertwine at certain points in this record are some of the high points. I would say that overall, Rome have kind of deviated from the fact that they felt more standard pop punk. Just the topics that they've written about in the past and the song structure, it wasn't exciting me. And here immediately with the lead single I felt excited, and again with the track Hand Grenades that released. I've really started gravitating towards some of the cuts like Loud that are just ridiculously fun, kind of anthemic. It's almost a bit gimmicky with the way that it's shouted, but it's so fucking catchy. This song just hammers it into your head in a way that I'm not entirely sure how they did it, but it works. And then that slicing guitar that cycles in after the whole L-O-U-D feature of the track. Red and Blue is another top tier track from Rome that I'm really loving. In fact, it might be my favorite on the entire LP, although there's a couple that are making their way to the top. I feel that Red and Blue, some people might listen to it and go, I hear the red pill, blue pill thing, Neo, the Matrix, it's been done, Mayday Parade did it on their album Sunnyland, but the difference here is the way that they go about making the rest of the track and the lyrics. I think this one kind of talks about daily life, and I really do relate to this song, talking about the struggles and just feeling like you're not getting anywhere, even though you're kind of working hard and you're just like, how am I gonna win this losing game, right? The chorus really staples everything together there, and there's just a lot of fun drum moments on it. Also, the bass on this track and the album at large, gotta give a compliment. The band have stepped it up, and they're working with a producer that definitely understands the sound that they were going for. I think the bass on so many of these mixes actually helps refine some of the tracks, but also define some of the tracks. There's certainly some more forgettable cuts on the album, none that are outright bad, I wouldn't say, but again, they're just kind of relying on a lot of the tropes of the rock genres and subgenres that they've been influenced by. I would say one of those is the Fire on the Ceiling. It's kind of talking about quitting the smoking, the nicotine addiction, and I love hearing about the dangers of smoking. Definitely a good message to get out there. Nicotine, bad, kids. It's not something that you want to get addicted to, but also at the same time, this song, not really getting the job done musically, vocally. I don't feel invested in it, and there's a few others like that as you continue listening. Unfortunately, Piranha, the second song that they dropped isn't exactly anything that pushes any boundaries. I feel that it's just kind of a safe one that they floated out there and they're like, oh, maybe some of our old fans will really like this one and it'll win over new people too. Better In Than Out is a great opener. It really gets the energy coursing through your veins, and I feel that that one would sound great in a live setting. There's also a great closer to this album. It's Turn. It's a little bit more reflective in some ways. It's growing on me. It's not the best song on the album, but still, Rome definitely outdid themselves here. It's maybe not the best record of the year by any stretch of that phrase, or maybe even one of the most underrated albums of the year, but it's one that I feel will go overlooked. Please give this band some attention because I'm really kind of sad about the amount of views and attention and streams that their new material is getting, even compared to some of their old stuff. People have forgotten about this band, so go check out this record. Link in the description down below. I'm gonna give this one a strong or a solid 3.5 out of 5.
Mark my words, it's never been fair. You favor the boy that played me and used me as a toy. Mark my words.
Dollskin have been generating a lot of buzz in the past 4 to 5 years, and for good reason. They're extremely talented. I kinda enjoyed this band's sound. I discovered them by listening to part of their set at Warped Tour, and they really do put on a great live show. I checked out some more of their material after a lot of my viewers were requesting for me to review their album Manic Pixie Dream Girl, and while I didn't get to a full review of that, I dug the album. There were some great songs on there. They showed off a tenacity. There's definitely a punk spirit about these 4 women, and it's not just that it's an all-female band, and it doesn't feel like any kind of gimmick or anything. These are 4 extremely talented musicians continuing to push themselves forward. And it's not that this album doesn't exude a lot of their talent and bring a lot of the great things into the mix. It's just that some of the opening cuts and even the closing moments show off the weakest elements and the things that feel a little bit more cheesy about them. The opening cut in particular, I really can't stand. It's called Don't Cross My Path, and it kind of feels very childish in a lot of ways. It cycles itself down, and I just can't take it all that seriously. Fortunately, that doesn't really happen. It's more of a blip on the radar. It's just an awkward start to the album because we get through the title track and even Mark My Words, that one in particular being possibly my favorite cut on the entire album. It's a track that definitely does itself a lot of favors because not only is it extremely catchy, it's also well produced. The drums stand out on this entire LP, thundering away on some of these tracks, really driving it home. And I think that more often than not, I'm more captivated by the music on this listen instead of the lyrics, whereas before, I feel that everybody was kind of on the same page. However, Out of My Mind definitely ups the ante there, a great tune that's easy to fall into. Also, Nasty Man, another one of my top favorites. It definitely doesn't take no for an answer here when it comes to calling somebody out, and it kind of turns the coin on the other side by basically saying, originally I felt pinned down, or else I know other women that felt pinned down, and now in the Me Too era, in this movement that's taking stances for women, I feel that this track does a great job at kind of capturing the energy of the persuasion, the movement that is starting to kind of ensue. Your Idols Are Dying seems to comment on similar things, and it kind of talks about the bridges that are being burned, but also in a positive way, and this track does feel like a force to be reckoned with musically. Again, the chorus here is something that continuously stings and slams home, and also it's definitely getting ingrained in my memory, which is a good thing. I had a few worries on the first few playthroughs, and I just didn't find it as gripping as I was hoping it would be, and now I would say about 5 to 6 listens deep, this is an album that I can say definitely has some conviction, some persuasion on some of its best tracks. But also, it feels a bit more staggered and quality. There's some that I feel indifferent on. There's a few tracks that I absolutely love and will come back to. And then there's some ones that I feel are just bad, like Ink Stains and the opening cut Don't Cross My Path. This is an album that definitely did disappoint me slightly, but again, it's not a huge step down. I thought their debut wasn't perfect by any means, but it showed that they had the gas in the tank to kind of go the long run, and this one, it petered out a little bit. Overall, I'm rating this a very strong 3 out of 5, but again, it hasn't diminished my hope for the future of Dollskin.
My confidence has left my head again, and all dissolved like a fading sunset. No looking back, just focus on what's coming. What part of the plan did I not
Finally, to close everything out today, we've got the 7th album, can't believe it's 7 albums already, but the 7th studio album by the emo revival band, also formerly math rock, at least some incorporations of that are still felt occasionally, it lingers in their sound, but the emo revival band Tiny Moving Parts in their new album Breathe. This is their first with Hopeless Records, and I was very excited to see them signing to this label. It's one of my favorites. And honestly, this record is definitely a step up in some ways from their last album, Swell, and the tracks feel more impactful here, more emotional in some ways, I would say, but also just more there, more gritty at times, but also more serene, more peaceful and positive. Those are good feelings, and I think the lead single, Medicine, kind of put it into perspective. That is a darker track. It talks about the death of a loved one, a friend, or a family member perhaps, and it takes it and kind of cycles it through several stages of mourning, and the chorus definitely hits in a major way. I need psychologics, the paralyzing medicine to kind of numb away the pain. It's a very fun song, but also a darker one, and I love the balance there that they strike. I would say overall that this trio definitely do a great job at blending both some of their heavier aspects on tracks like Bloody Nose that sees, yes, the Midwest coming in, those tapping guitars that we all know and probably love, at least some of us do. I know I'm a sucker for those moments when they pop up. They're just so fun, so engaging. It makes you want to do the little thing, tapping along on your guitar at home. What the hell am I talking about? I don't know how to play a guitar. I just tap along on my chest. But there's many songs that make me want to do that, and Bloody Nose is extremely captivating. It's an enthralling listen, and I feel that this one just really throws everything out there. It starts off slow, and then the drums and the guitars and everything start to clash, and then the vocals get a little bit more intense. Also, if you're looking for vocal intensity, perhaps you've missed those aspects in some way, I highly recommend the opening track, The Midwest Sky. That one really just immediately pulls you into that world, and I think that Dylan does such a good job there, not only vocally, but just sustaining a compelling narrative on that tune. I think the guitars are definitely played in a tone that make me want to come back to this track and the rest of the album again. They've kind of outdone themselves in some ways, although there's a few lackluster moments that I just don't feel as strongly about. Towards the end of the record, I Can't Shake is probably my least favorite track, a moment that I could easily breeze by. I would say the song Soft Spot has definitely grown on me. I initially kind of felt that that was more of a forgettable moment, but I appreciate the backing vocals. This isn't the first time that this has happened, but Jetty Bones, the lead singer of that band who is actually dating the lead singer of Tiny Moving Parts, comes in, provides some more atmosphere, a nice ambience. It kind of balances things out, makes it a little bit more low-key, but Soft Spot is a track that does have energy and inertia as well. It's not just sitting around twiddling its thumbs. I think my favorite moment, definitely the big standout on this LP, not that there aren't others, but the one that totally won me over and just had me saying, yes, I need to repeat this again and again, is the song Polar Bear. This is definitely a moment that has a lot of emotion packed into it. I think that overall, Polar Bear seems to be speaking to a friend that's going through perhaps a drug crisis, something that they're addicted to, and they're trying to come off. Get ready to fight is a phrase that's thrown in there. The vocals definitely hooked me on this track, but also the music. There's just a way that they layer in a few other organic things that make a lot of sense for this track, but it also feels very fresh for their sound. Also, if you're looking for new sounds, then peek back at that track Vertebrae, because there's a banjo breakdown going on in the background of that one in the second half. Are we sure we're thinking Midwest sound here? Are we talking Wild West? Hallmark honestly touched me the way that it closes out this album. It's talking about the cards that we give to someone to make it better, but it couldn't fix the cancer. That's just the simple fact, and that's floated out there, and it's just like, oh, well, we're not keeping any skeletons in the closet. We're not keeping anything buried on this record. I love that they deal with pain in a very realistic way. Icicle's Morning Glow has a beautiful message behind it. I love this tune. It definitely shimmers. It just kind of gives you a spring meets fall type quality, a great impact that the song has overall. Lightbulb has some intensity, a little bit of a flame behind it as well. And overall, I'm definitely very, very impressed with this album. Again, it's a step up from Swell. I'm not entirely sure how it stacks up compared to their past material because I'm not as familiar with that. But as somebody who's becoming more and more of a fan of this band, I'm loving the balance that they strike on the album between some of the harder and heavier moments, but also the restraint and the maturity that they show. This is certainly a great record. I don't know that it'll make my year-end list, but it's certainly in the running. I'm giving this a very strong 4 out of 5. Leave a like on this video if you enjoyed the reviews, and also if you want to see more smaller bands get coverage in the future. A like goes a long way. Subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you don't miss out when I upload in the future. If you want to see another smaller band that I reviewed, then tap this card here or tap here for another recent video. All of my socials in the description, including my Patreon. Thanks again to Andrew for requesting Dullskin, and I'll see you soon for more on ARTV.